Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Unit 11, The Great Depression and World War II. So I'm going to be super enthusiastic just for Miss Ambrose's crew. As I've been told, I'm not enthusiastic as I should be. So Unit 11, which we're going to cover this week, and then you'll have a test on Friday, is all about the Great Depression and World War II. Now, just like we did for the last unit, this unit will concentrate mainly on how did the Great Depression and World War II affect South Carolina. We're not going to be looking at World War II, the battles, and all those interesting little tidbits of information. Instead, we're going to be focusing in on our attention just on how the Great Depression and World War II affected South Carolina. Remember to set up your brand new unit for Unit 11. Insert your content map as well as all your other stuff that you need to, as it says on the screen. So Lesson 1, the Great Depression. What we're going to answer is, how did the Great Depression affect South Carolina and the nation as a whole? Remember, we're focusing in on South Carolina. So during the Great Depression, which essentially started halfway through 1928 but really ramped up during 1929, in South Carolina, it started as an agricultural depression. Following the prosperity of World War I, South Carolina farmers would really struggle because the demand for crops would drop. The boll weevil, that pesky fun little bug, is also going to cause massive amounts of damage, eating up to 1/2 of the cotton crops. Besides the crop value dropping and the boll weevil, drought, erosion, and soil depletion are going to further the problems of South Carolina farmers. By the end of the 20s, cotton was no longer the main crop in the low country of South Carolina. Also during this time, the good times for farmers would end because all the money that they were borrowing during the good times to buy land, equipment, and pesticides, they're going to start owing that money. They can't pay that money back because they're not making any money. By the late 20s, they're unable to pay back those loans. So banks would end up foreclosing on their property, including their homes, their land, and that money would be lost. So banks foreclosed on their property, or they lost their land to the state government because they could not afford to pay their property tax. Since the banks were no longer making money on people paying back their loans, they could not sell the repossessed lands, and South Carolina banks would begin to fail when the stock market crashed in 1929. Dispossessed farmers became sharecroppers or tenant farmers, or they would end up moving to the mill towns, or a lot of them would end up moving north to search for jobs up there. A lot of people in the Midwest would actually move out to the California region. The economic struggles would not only be there for farmers, but also for the textile mills. The prosperity of the textile mills during World War I was very short-lived. Following the war, the demand for the textiles would drop, as well as the price of textiles would drop. So that old idea of supply and demand is going to play a huge role in the failure of South Carolina during the Great Depression. The conditions were worse in the north, and so southern textile mills continued to prosper and grow as northerners moved south to make the use of cheap labor. Well, mill owners tried to compete for workers by improving homes in their villages. They added electricity and running water. They used methods like the speed up or stretch out and increase their production in order to increase their profit. But they're not going to pay their workers any more money. Since the workers are not paid anymore, they did not have greater buying power, and therefore the economy was just not healthy. The method of speeding up and stretching out ending production would really affect South Carolina, and South Carolina's economy was in extremely poor conditions by the end of the 1920s. This concludes Lesson 1.